Thanks again, everybody, for being here. Saw some of you a couple of weeks ago. I'm Kevin Broughton, the Tea Party Communications Director for the Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund. It's good to be back home in Mississippi. I moved to Georgia about a month ago, and I've made 3 trips back to the Magnolia State since, so it's like I never left. We're here today because we think it's time to refocus on the issues that are critical to this Senate primary campaign. First and foremost, the national debt. This right here is what $58,000 looks like. And that's what every American and every Mississippian in this room owes. That is your share of the national debt. It's not real money, so don't get any wise ideas. But this is what $58,000 looks like. And every baby born today in Mississippi and all over this republic comes into the world inheriting that much debt to the federal government. Obamacare is another issue that we think is of critical importance. Right now, Mississippi has a senior U.S. senator who voted yes on the cloture motion to bring Harry Reid's Obamacare budget to the floor of the U.S. Senate. He then took an illegal exemption and subsidy for himself and his staff that is not available to anybody in this room. And finally, we want to talk about amnesty. You know, Thad Cochran makes some of the right noises and pays some lip service to being against amnesty for illegal aliens, but the votes, some key votes really don't bear that out. In 2006, I believe, he voted against an amendment from Senator Sessions from Alabama that would have built 370 miles of fence on our republic's southern border. And more recently, last year, he voted yes again on the motion to proceed to bring the Gang of Eight's amnesty bill to the floor of the U.S. Senate. So while it's nice to beat your chest and say I'm against a pathway to citizenship or amnesty or whatever you want to call it, his votes in critical times don't really bear that out. And ask yourself this, would the Chamber of Commerce that has been brazen in its advocacy for amnesty, I mean, they're out in the open. They favor just throwing open the borders and giving citizenship to people who broke the law to get here to provide cheap labor. And they're pouring a bunch of money in to support Thad Cochran in the U.S. Senate race. One of his biggest political patrons, our former governor, has made no secret of his support for amnesty. And he is, I think, Senator Cochran's biggest cheerleader in this Senate fight. So we want to refocus the issues onto those which are important, to get away from some of these distractions that have taken away from the crucial messaging of this campaign. I'm about to introduce my boss and our national chairman of the Citizens Fund. She will in turn give way to Mr. Michael Bostic, who is here from Freedom Works. We appreciate their support. He'll say a few words, and then I'll introduce you to some of our local activists who have some things to say about these critical issues. But right now, it's my privilege to introduce one of the most inspirational people and leaders I've ever met, Ms. Jenny Beth Martin. Jenny Beth.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being here today. It's so good to be in Mississippi. I'm back with people who I've met before, and I'm making new friends as I'm here on this trip. Over the weekend, over Memorial Day, I was up in DeSoto County with our team there, and we were going door to door talking to the voters about the issues. The voters really are concerned about the issues in this state. We endorsed, at Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund, we endorsed Chris McDaniel because he stands for the Constitution. He embodies the values of personal freedom, economic freedom, and the debt-free future we want for our children and our grandchildren. And we're here in Mississippi now because this election matters. We think it's of national importance to have one more senator who will fight Obamacare with every fiber of his being, instead of one who votes with Harry Reid to bring the Obamacare budget to the floor, and then takes an illegal exemption for himself and his staff. It's important to Mississippians to decide whether $17 trillion in national debt is sustainable. and if voting for more and more federal money is truly a conservative position. This is what $58,000 looks like, stacked dollar to dollar, end to end. And $58,000 is how much every single one of us in this room owes as our portion of the national debt. And every American owes this. And every child born today will owe this much money as our portion of the national debt. And with pro-amnesty groups pouring money into Mississippi to support Thad Cochran, it's important to point out that he opposed the funding for a 370-mile border fence, and he voted to allow the Gang of Eight bill, the Gang of Eight amnesty bill, to come to the floor of the U.S. Senate. This election matters to the people of Mississippi and to the entire republic. It's important enough to be decided on the issues, not distractions. You're going to hear from some of the hardworking Mississippians who will tell you why they think this election matters. And then we'll be happy to take any questions that you have on the issues that are critical to the future of Mississippi and to the country. And next up we have Michael Bostic, who is with FreedomWorks.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jenny Beth. I do represent FreedomWorks for America, but I'm not an outside organization. I'm a grassroots person. I was born in Mississippi. I have lived just about all of my life here in Mississippi. And so I'm proud to be here as a grassroots activist to talk about just a couple of items. I look at that 58,000, and most of us are family people. That translates, according to my old-fashioned math, for a family of four, that's $232,000. Try paying that off in your lifetime. And, well, I get very upset with our Republican leadership. They want to talk about now is not the time to have a fight over the budget and things like that. In the meantime, we've gone from about $11 trillion deficit to $17.5 trillion the last time I looked. If we extend that on out to 2016, when President Obama leaves office, we're going to have almost doubled the national debt during his time, or his two terms. I'm sorry, but our establishment Republican leadership has chosen not to fight on this budget of fiscal responsibility. The one thing that I do know that Chris McDaniel understands is he understands economics. He understands business. We think of him as being strong on the Constitution, and that being strong on the Constitution will lead to strength in economics and in the business world, and that's why I support him. And so that's my remarks. Kevin.
Thanks, Michael. We appreciate FreedomWorks being represented here today. We're going to have some of our local Tea Party activists and leaders come now and make a few remarks. First up will be Mr. Don Hartman. Don?
Good morning. Had to put my specs on. You get above 50, you can't see quite as well as you do as a youngster. I see a lot of Patriots in here. Some of these folks I've gone shoulder to shoulder with in D.C. and locally. My name is Don Hartness, by the way. I'm a local activist. Some of you see me on the street corner of Castle Woods and Highway 25 holding a flag 3 days a year. Reason being is to support our veterans. And my wife and I and another lady have started a Wounded Warriors of Mississippi together. Being a veteran myself, it's duly important that we treat these guys right. A Also, I have 4 kids, 4 boys. I got 1 in college. I got 2 others that are productive tax-paying citizens. They don't own an Obama phone. They pay their own bills. Also, my job is I'm an independent contractor for a chemical company, which allows me more time to do things. I'm a commissioned salesperson, so what does that mean? When I'm an activist, I'm not making anything, so I have to sell on my own value. What I'm speaking to today is the very thing that we're all talking about, the debt. As far as it's a serious problem. We've got a 6-term senator that has not come up with any bills that I know to combat this problem. In fact, I've never seen him go toe-to-toe with any administration. He's voted along the lines with Obama when it deals with our debt or any money. In fact, I think 6 to 7 times he's just passed a budget just to increase it, just no debate at all. Senator Cochran has also been rated the biggest porker of the year for 3 years in a row with his reckless spending, and that was CBS, April 2010. So I'm going to give you some facts. There's 6 things you don't mess with me. You don't mess with my faith, my guns, my flag, my country, or my liberty. This country has messed with all 6, and I'm pissed. I don't know about y'all, but I'm pissed. Some of the factual information that I have is that Senator Cochran voted against an amendment to prohibit the National Endowment for the Arts for using taxpayer money to promote and disseminate material depicting sexual activities. Roll call number 24, October 31st, 1991. Voted to continue funding the Bridge to Nowhere in Alaska. Roll call number 262, October 20th, 2005. Voted against requiring 2/3 majority to raise non-defense discretionary spending. Roll call number 65, March 16, 2006. Voted to increase the U.S. share of the United Nations peacekeeping cost. Roll call number 317, September 6, 2007. Voted against earmark moratorium, earmarks, pork, all hand in hand. Roll call number 50, March 16, 2010. Voted against a plan that would actually balance the budget within 10 years. Can you imagine, within 10 years, taking this off the back of our citizens? Roll call number 101, May 16, 2012. I am appalled. My son is here with me today. It's going to be on his back, my grandkid's back. He's sitting in the back wondering how he's going to pay off this debt. He asks me questions all the time. Dad, how can we afford certain things? This president has put it on us. We've had no fight from our senator. All 5 representatives in this state do not represent us. We call their office. We've been by their office for a town hall. Everybody has refused us. I wanted to quote one thing, and I carry this around with me, and y'all may see it. I do carry around the Constitution with me. We have a Bible for our spiritual needs. We have a Constitution for our lawyer needs, our legal needs. That's what this contains. Out of the Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers, once said about the debt, I, however, place economy among the first and most important Republican virtues in public debt as the greatest of dangers to be feared. To preserve our independence, we must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. I am for a government rigorously frugal and simple. Thomas Jefferson. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Don. Thank you. Next up will be one of our Tea Party leaders who really goes the extra mile, Laura Von Overshaw.
I want to make something very clear, and that is that the Tea Party movement is a collection of ordinary people who want to take back our government. The preamble says we are the people. We decide how our government is run. And we are just ordinary citizens who say we have the right to say so, and we have a First Amendment to prove it. I am just an ordinary person. I'm an ordinary citizen. I've been blessed with being able to serve my ordinary citizen friends. And I think it's incredibly important that we who have a passion for maintaining the freedoms this country was given us by our founders and many leaders since then, to say, we establish what this country is, not those who have risen to power. One of the reasons that I support Chris is that Chris has those same values. Chris McDaniel is he stands steadfastly in opposition to Obamacare. Obamacare takes money, actually the fruits of our labor, to give to other people who do not work. That's not an entitlement. That's not a given. He is committed, Chris McDaniel is committed to repealing Obamacare. Some of us in the Tea Party went to Washington, D.C. the day that the arguments appeared before the Supreme Court over Obamacare. Many of us in this room were there. We, on the way up there, decided we were going to try to see if we could see our congressmen and our senators. What is important to know about that is I am a retired nurse anesthetist. I worked 43 years in healthcare industry. I was the liaison for the Mississippi Association of Nurse Anesthetists for several years. I tried relentlessly to get an appointment with Senator Cochran. I had never met the man up until the time that the arguments appeared before the Supreme Court. We got an appointment. 3 of us were there. We talked with Senator Cochran. We told him why we were there for the arguments before the Supreme Court. He said, oh, this was the day the arguments actually were taken. Oh, what are they talking about before the Supreme Court today? This was the day Obamacare was being argued before the Supreme Court. We had to inform him that it was the Obamacare arguments. He said, oh, that is a boondoggle, but it is so heavily laden into our law now, I don't think we can repeal it. I don't think we can do much of anything with it. Later, he voted for cloture to let Harry Reid bring the Obamacare budget to the floor of the Senate. He voted in favor of it. This was after he had spoken with us. This was after the arguments. And he still voted for us. He knew that the people of Mississippi do not want Obamacare. Then he himself took an illegal exemption from Obamacare for himself and for his staff. People in Mississippi don't get those kinds of deals. So forgive me for thinking that Thad Cochran might not be up to the job. But he's not shown me that he's been up to the job for a very long time. Many of us in this room have sent messages to his office, called his office to tell him how we feel about some of his votes. And we get the same. He has not decided yet how he will vote. When he will not reveal to us how he will represent us, how can we say that we want him to come back as our senator? Chris McDaniel will respond to us. He's made himself available for 8 months, crisscrossing this state to introduce himself to the regular citizens. That is the man we need.
Thanks, Laura. Next up, a guy who took time off of work today to drive up from the Mississippi coast, Mr. Barry Narray.
Hi, y'all. My name is Barry Narray. I came up from Long Beach on the Gulf Coast. This is how dedicated I am to this cause, because it seems like the last chance we're going to have this particular series of elections to get some kind of sanity back in Washington. I'm a computer programmer by trade. And, we've seen in the last several decades, and more intensely in the last few years, some really startling things going on in Washington. You'll agree, I'm sure. We've seen weaponized IRS, weaponized EPA. We've seen Benghazi, who cares, right? We've seen Harry Reid shut down the federal government and then convince 51% of the people that Ted Cruz did it. But I know that Chris sees what's going on. He really gets it, and he knows how to do something about it, and he's got the courage to actually get in there and fight and do something about it. Now, everyone knows that Senator Thad Cochran is going to be pro-amnesty when the time comes. Again, someone mentioned that he pretends to not be to not be for amnesty, but we know different, right? In 2006, there was an amendment proposed to a Homeland Security bill, an amendment to put up 370 miles of fence along the border. Now, to pay for this fence, they were going to take the money away from some of the discretionary pieces of that same bill. So it wasn't new money, it was already in the bill. Senator Cochran voted no against the border fence. He voted no because he had some earmarks in that bill that he didn't want to lose, didn't want to give up the money for those earmarks to build a border fence. This proves that every dollar of pork that really is his entire reputation, every dollar of pork comes from or has a cost to our nation as a whole. In this case, a few dollars of supposed free money prevented national security. In 2006 also, there was another bill called the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Act. This was proposed by none other than Arlen Specter. There were some sections in the bill that were amnesty for all. Well, David Vitter, another good conservative from Louisiana, proposed an amendment to wipe out the section of that bill that was going to give amnesty to all illegal aliens. Again, Thad Cochran voted no to taking out the amnesty part. He voted no. He voted no along with Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid. What can you say about that? This is the Harry Reid that says, oh, we like Thad Cochran. He's a wonderful man. One of the reasons, and this is a quote, one of the reasons Harry Reid loves Thad Cochran so much is because he's silent all the time. Duh. Do we want a senator that's silent all the time? No. 2009, there was another bill. Senator Tom DeMint, was it Tom? Jim DeMint proposed another 300 and some odd miles of border fence. Cochran, nah, no border fence for me. We don't care about the people and the invaders coming across the border, not to mention the terrorists that come along with the invaders. Well, the amendment passed, but we see what's going on the border. They're not doing even what they're supposed to do. Now, you may think those three little pieces of votes aren't that big a deal. He'll do the right thing when it's time. But consider this. Consider the Barber factor. Now, I'm going to read a quote coming out of the National Review, a pretty famous and respected conservative magazine. Barber has been urging Republicans to pass comprehensive immigration reform since November 2012. Barber is also a co-chairman of the Immigration Task Force at the Bipartisan Policy Center, which supports the Gang of Eight style reform. According to GOP congressional staffers, Barber has been one of the most aggressive behind-the-scenes lobbyists for comprehensive immigration reform, even reaching out to the Gang of Eight opponents. Now, on top of this, as was said, add that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is openly pro-amnesty. So when you combine what Senator Cochran has voted against and his major supporters, those that are carrying him, funding him, and running his campaign, well, how do you think he's going to vote when amnesty comes up in the next year, maybe two at the most? How do you think he's going to vote? Is there any question to what he's going to do, considering who's been supporting him? No, not a question in my mind. Now, Chris McDaniel, that is, he signed the Federation of American Immigration Reform's pledge to never, ever support amnesty for all, ever. And also to never increase, or at least not in the near term, increase the number of legal immigrants that may come from Mexico and take the jobs of Mississippians and other peoples in the state. So we know he is not going to betray our trust. We know exactly what he's going to do when the time comes. Chris McDaniel will fight against amnesty for all every day, every night, and as long as he can possibly stand up to do it. We have seen him do this kind of fight over and over. Chris McDaniel has voted to toughen restrictions against illegal aliens within the state a handful of times. And he has said himself that he is on the Jeff Sessions and Mike Lee path towards preventing amnesty. So one of the major issues, you don't like amnesty, you don't want all the people that invaded our country to be forgiven for nothing, Cochran wants that to happen, Chris McDaniel doesn't. The choice is clear. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. I'm just guessing that if given the opportunity, you wouldn't pardon Governor Barber for his stance on amnesty. Little Mississippi humor there. Next up, we're going to have Roy Nicholson, the immediate past president, or is it chairman? Immediate past chairman of the Central Mississippi Tea Party. Come speak with us for a couple minutes.
Thank you, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning. What seems to have been forgotten by our elected officials is that we, the people, have God-given unalienable rights, and that according to the Declaration of Independence, the only purpose of government is to secure those rights. They also seem oblivious to the founders' statement that the only just government power comes from the consent of us, the governed. They ignore that the U.S. Constitution is the formal codification of our consent, and that any power not specifically identified in it is outside of their authority. As they legislate ever greater budgets, taxes, and sky-high debt, as they take our property by force and give it to others, both in our country and outside of it, as they legislate and adjudicate away the freedoms our founders fought for, and they seek to strip us of the rights that God gave us, they ignore the United States Constitution with its very plain restrictions on their authority and power. And in deliberately ignoring that sacred document, they break their sworn oath that they made to us and that they made to God. And they make themselves totally unworthy of their high offices. They have taken on the character of tyrants, pirates, and looters, and they do show themselves worthy of our contempt. They loot our treasure, they slaughter our young men in senseless wars, they suppress our right to worship and oppress our businesses with thousands of pages of regulation. They burden us with taxes upon taxes. They open our border to a flood of illegal immigrants and corrupt our children and our entire society as they spew forth their complete contempt for both us and God. Now, as we teeter right on the brink, on the precipice of economic destruction, as we watch our national status and power dissolve before our very eyes, as the number on welfare overtakes the number of the employed, and as we are fed one lie after another, what are we to do? What will you do? Mississippi, there is hope. We can resist this theft of our country and vote out the thieves and robbers. For my part, on June 3rd, I'm voting to send a true conservative to the U.S. Senate. I'm going to vote for Senator Chris McDaniel, and I pray that you will join me on that day. Yes. Will you? Yes. Yes. A side note, the thing that excites me about Chris McDaniel is he is one of those crazy guys that actually believes that the things our founding fathers wrote and fought and died for and lost their sacred honor, lost their fortunes, lost their families, those ideals, those principles of American self-governance and freedom, he actually believes those things were right and that they apply today. And I know him, he'll stand up and fight for it. But I also pray that you'll not just stop with a vote. Please take up, and I know just about every single person in here, you're doing it. To those who might hear it or read it, take up your God-given responsibility to be an informed, involved citizen that is involved in that political process. And I can tell you one of the very best ways to do that is get involved in the Tea Party. God bless you.
Roy, I'm going to put you down as an undecided. About time for an altar call. Lastly, we've got a gentleman named Grant Sowell who came all the way down here from Tupelo today, and he's going to close out our remarks from our activists. Grant?
Thank you, Kevin and Jenny Beth. Thank all of you for being here. You mean I'm going to have to follow these guys? I may even have to pull my specs out, but it started with me at 45, not 50. Okay. I understand that there's been a missing persons report lately. Dana Bash from CNN has been looking for our senator. Have you heard about that? Dana Bash and Thad Dash. I'll say. Let me tell you, I wish he were here because I would like to ask him a question, and that would be about amnesty. You know, our country is, we have a little bit of an unemployment issue here, you know? And the fact of the matter in Mississippi, it's worse than the national average. According to latest reports, the national average is, I think, around 7%, and we're like 6. National average is 6.3. We're like 7.5. That's 95,389 Mississippians that are without a job. Do you know the cost in 2010 of illegal immigration to Mississippians? $106 million. Let me break it down for you. $70.3 million in education, $11.5 million in health care, $7.8 in criminal justice, $6.1 in welfare, $10.8 with additional state and local operations. That's a problem. What is also a problem, and many have already kind of stole my thunder on the amnesty issue and pointed out the fact, rightly so, that Thad is a little weak in this area. And in fact, he's left of center. When you look at our Mississippi Republican platform or the national Republican platform, Thad Cochran is left of center on almost every issue. Now, when you look at a constitutional conservative like Chris, a Reagan Republican, he's way left of center of Chris McDaniel. In fact, considering that, going into this race with Mississippi rating in the Gallup polls in the last few years is the #1 most conservative state in the nation, you might think that Chris would actually have a shot. And though many people said there's no way he could run against that and it'd be even close, I actually thought if he could get in this race and get some support in our state and also from great Americans that we welcome to the hospitality state from other states to get in the fight, because this affects America, not just Mississippi. So you're welcome to be here. I want to say to you, you would think, given the facts that we're the most conservative state in the nation, and Chris is strong conservative and Thad is a moderate. By the way, American Family Association's voter guide says Chris rates very conservative, Thad Cochran rates moderate. The other guy, I can't think of his name, he rates higher. I'm sorry, forgive me for not, because he put his name in there. What's his name? Another guy that nobody knows that is also in the Republican Senate race, he rates higher than Thad Cochran, whoever he is. Okay. Now I want to say something though. I'm serious. You know, given the details, it would be a grand slam for Chris McDaniel to win if Thad Cochran and Chris McDaniel put their records beside each other and they debate and they talk about the issues. That's why this campaign has took a turn to talk about everything but the issues and to do everything but have a debate and to do everything but talk to the people of Mississippi, our reporters. You know, I want to tell Dana, welcome to Mississippi, because we've had the same problem trying to find our senator. I most people know me, and like I know these folks, we've been pretty active in politics, and I will tell you that I have seen and met and talked with Senator Wicker many occasions. So Congressman Nunley, Harper, I have I have their personal cell phone number. I can call them and get a response. That's not too bad. But I've been in Senator Wicker's living room, and we've talked about the issues. We didn't agree, but we talked about the issues. In closing, I want to say that there is a clear choice. As they have already pointed out, there are indicators that seem to reflect that if Thad Cochran is elected, he will vote for amnesty. Those indicators would be the U.S. Chamber of Commerce President Tom Donahue saying clearly on a number of occasions that we need to pass amnesty for cheap labor. Now, I've got a problem with that on for a couple of reasons. One, we have 95,000 Mississippians that need jobs. Secondly, I'm for a path to citizenship if it's done in a legal way. I support that. But I think it's cruel and uncompassionate to Hispanics to look at them as a cheap labor force. So what are you saying? You're looking for sweatshop workers? What are you saying? You're looking to build sanctuary cities and replace American workers with people who have broke the law and you're wanting to reward them? I have a problem with that. And I will tell you, if the greatest supporters behind Thad Cochran are Chamber of Commerce that's running negative attack ads on Chris when Chris has always wanted to keep it about the issues and about having a debate and about records. And also when Haley Barbour, the Mississippi Conservatives PAC, and I could talk an hour about the problem I have with him, but I won't because we're short on time. I will tell you, though, if Haley Barbour is clearly meeting with the mayor of Sanctuary's Democrat mayor, Julian Castro, in San Antonio, Sanctuary City, and they are openly talking about how we need immigration reform or what have you, and we need to pass amnesty. And they're saying we need to do this before the presidential election. Get this thing behind us. That way we can send a guy there, and it doesn't matter where he stands on amnesty. I'm going to tell you, if Chris McDaniel is elected, and I believe he will be, and we're supporting him, he will not be silent to Harry Reid. He will not be silent to Obama, and he will stand against amnesty. His record shows it, and that's his position. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for doing this, and thank you for leading this Tea Party movement in Mississippi. And speaking of Where is Thad, we do have a website called whereisthad.com, and I encourage you to check it out and see just where he has been and where he is not.
I've never met him, never seen him.
Thanks, Jenny Beth, and thanks to our local activists, many of whom took time off work to be here today. Echoing what Grant just said, I've long thought, and I've been a Mississippi Republican for many years, I've always thought there was more to being a conservative than winning the race on election night every 4 years, than winning the race against South Carolina to see which state goes red first on the map. There's more to being a conservative, and I think we're fortunate as conservatives and Republicans nominally in Mississippi that this Senate race has given us an opportunity as a movement and as a party to really examine what it means to be a conservative, because it's more than just going up first on the board every 4 years. With that, we'll take any questions from our friends in the media.
Can I ask you guys if you're concerned that the negative attention focused on Chris McDaniel related to Senator Cochran's wife photo scandal surrounding his wife, will that hurt Mr. McDaniel, given that some of these people involved in that have been connected to Tea Party groups?
Well, Tea Party means a lot of things to a lot of people. We know that none of the folks who have been arrested have ever made a donation to the Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund. We've not had any interaction with them, but we're here to talk about issues. We talked about distractions. What you just mentioned is a distraction, and one of the reasons we're here today is to refocus on the issues.
Mark made
I mean, you know, we don't, the notion that this was planned out by either, or acquiesced to by either the McDaniel campaign or any Tea Party organization just defies reason or logic, you know, and with this big dragnet that's going on, I hope the police aren't going to swoop in here and start cuffing people up. You know, again, we're here to talk about the issues that are critical to the campaign, and you know, issue number one is right here: $58,000 in debt.
For the past week, basically since these charges came out, McDaniel really hasn't done any interviews or talked to the media in the past week. Why has he not done that?
Well, you know, you were here the last time we were in this room, and I work for the Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund. Jenny Beth Martin does too, and we are an independent expenditures only super PAC. We can't coordinate with the McDaniel campaign. You'd have to ask the McDaniel campaign about that. But we're here on behalf of our local activists to talk about the issues. You know.
Whether connected or not, is it frustrating that those people that were arrested are connected or label themselves as Tea Party supporters? Is that one of the challenges moving into these final few days of campaigning to people and talking to people? Is that something that's coming up?
That's a fair statement.
May I make a statement?
Sure.
I think I know just about every one of you in the press here. I've met you, dealt with you at some time. I think I have met and worked with just about all of you in the media here. And I want to tell you I'm very disappointed in you. And there's some of you I really like. But I'm disappointed because you keep going after the sensational. Go after the facts that are critical to the life and health of Mississippians. The debt, amnesty, Obamacare. It goes on and on and on. Where has Thad Cochran been on these issues? Why won't he debate? Why are you interested in one guy that is accused of having got involved to do something humiliating to everybody instead of 42 years of record of Thad Cochran? Why are you focusing on the non-essentials? I'm asking you, get a backbone, stand up, and interview Thad Cochran and find out where he really is.
The press is supposed to be the fourth estate. It is your responsibility. It is your job to report what is important to every single Mississippian, not some sensational story you want to pursue.
That said, that
Why you're not doing your job
Hey.
on the issue. Part of my question today is about the issues. We talked a lot about what Thad Cochran has and has not done, and about what we anticipate Chris McDaniel to do. Have you found that you are having to speak more to what Thad has and hasn't done, or what Chris, specifics on the issues of what Chris is going to do?
I don't live here in Mississippi. I've been here about a week. I've been talking with voters around the state, and we have teams of people out talking to voters around the state. They want to know what's going on with the debt. They want to know how we're going to get rid of this debt.
That's right, that's right.
That's what they're concerned about. They're not distracted by shiny objects. They're concerned about the issues.
all that said, I'm really glad all the members of the media are here. Any questions about, I don't know, the issues?
News at 6. Do you have any indication of what the founding fathers were thinking? Were they thinking about career politicians when they wrote all of this?
Well, I'd have to go back 19 years to my constitutional law class. But I don't think they envisioned anything like we're dealing with right now.
They went home.
Yeah. They didn't stick around 40 years.
They went home to take care of their families.
How about Mr. Pender from the state's flagship newspaper? Any questions? Okay. Any other questions about the issues facing the candidates in this campaign.
Else that we haven't addressed. I guess part of my reserve in asking you questions about issues is that you are not directly related to the McDaniel campaign, although you guys have endorsed him. But is
Right.
there anything else that we have not addressed about the issues that you would like to say?
Well, I mean, I think our citizen activists have covered it here. I mean, we do some pretty extensive field research, and the issues that we have found that resonate most with Republican primary voters, likely Republican primary voters, are the national debt, Obamacare and its repeal, and look, it is a fact that Thad Cochran and his staff take an illegal extra-governmental exemption and subsidy to the 75% of their premiums are paid by the U.S. government, out of the U.S. Treasury. That's not available to these people in this room. That's not available to you or me. And I guess if anybody could run Senator Cochran down, not literally, and find out and ask him, why'd you take this exemption? I mean, he apparently is not taking any questions at all. Yes, sir.
Tea Party candidates have suffered a series of defeats around the country. What is your response to that? Do you think that's going to happen? I mean, not that's going to happen here, so you know, say that. But do you think that that's a referendum?
Are you referring to Ben Sass in Nebraska, our endorsed candidate who won? Or Kurt Clausen, our endorsed candidate in Florida 19, who won? You weren't even aware of those, were you?
As a matter of fact, I was.
Okay, so they weren't included in the series of defeats?
There are a number of primaries around the country. I'm curious about what your guys' thoughts on.
Okay, and I'm going to let Jenny Beth speak to that. I just wanted to make you aware that we're not over this cycle.
There have also been a number of Tea Party wins. Kurt Clausen in a special election in Florida, he won the Republican nomination. Alex Mooney in West Virginia, Ben Sass in Nebraska. I think we're going to have a win here next week, and we will continue with that. The fact of the matter is, our issues are the issues that people are talking about around this country. People care about personal freedom. They care about economic freedom. They want to know how they're going to be able to get back to work and have the opportunity to earn more money and the ability for businesses to hire more people. And we care about a debt-free future. We don't think it's right for our children to be saddled with this debt that our generation has incurred. And the American people agree with us, and we're winning on the issues, and we are also winning elections.
Any other questions? Tell you what, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We did this a couple of weeks ago, and the members of the media had their opportunity to engage with our individual activists, and I want to encourage you to do that. Thank y'all for coming, in the members of the Fourth Estate. We do appreciate your being here, and thank you everybody else who's taken time out of their day to do this. But let's have a press gaggle. Thanks.
Thank you.